Okay, imagine this. You're standing in let's say, a busy coffee shop, or maybe a cool clothing store, and you're feeling pretty confident. You know the language, you've been speaking it your whole life, so you walk up to the counter, shoulders back, and you go to ask a simple question. Maybe pay a compliment.
And then Tika.
Nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The air just goes out of the room.
That's silence that's somehow really, really loud.
Yes. People are looking at you with this mix of, I don't know, confusion and maybe even a little bit of horror.
Yes.
And you get that sinking feeling in your gut that the words you just used, words you thought you knew, do not mean what you think they mean here.
It's that uncanny valley of communication, isn't it?
It is. You're technically fluent, but you're completely lost.
It's a terrifying spot to be in. Everything looks familiar, the signs, the words, but the underlying code has completely shifted.
Yeah.
You're not just being misunderstood, you're navigating a social minefield.
That is the exact nightmare scenario we're tackling today. We're doing a deep dive into the treacherous, often hilarious divide between British and American English. And it's so much more than accents.
Oh, way more. As we were digging into the research, it just became so clear. We're not just talking about saying elevator or lift.
No, we're talking about vocabulary that can get you into real trouble, social rules that can get you ostracized, and, well, food orders that can leave you staring at a plate of mush when you thought you ordered a cookie.
The stakes are high. And to guide us, we're looking at this fantastic discussion called Across the Pond, Navigating British and American English Nuances from the Advanced Learner Studio.
What I love about this source is how it treats them not as, just lists of different words, but as two distinct cultural operating systems.
That's a great way to put it, operating systems. So our mission today is pretty simple. We're going to decode these differences so you can navigate a conversation in London or New York without, accidentally insulting someone.
Or ordering gravy for dessert.
Right. And beyond just the survival tips, we want to look at the psychology. Why do these differences exist? What does it say about the cultures?
Okay, so the source starts with this really crucial idea. Context is king.
Meaning what you learn in a textbook is almost useless in a real conversation.
Exactly. It's the difference between linguistic competence, knowing the grammar, and cultural fluency. You can know every word in a sentence, but if you don't get the delivery system, the sarcasm, the tone, you miss the real message.
Which brings us to my favorite part, the sarcasm spectrum.
Ah, yeah.
This is where it all goes wrong, isn't it? The source gives this perfect, painful example of dry British humor. Can you walk us through it?
Okay, so picture this. You're at work, you've made a mistake. Not a little one, a pretty significant one.
Like you deleted the database.
Something like that, yeah. And your British colleague comes over, looks at your screen, and after a long pause just says, well, that's just brilliant.
Okay, stop right there. If I'm American, I hear the word brilliant, and my brain thinks, great job, I'm being praised.
You're beaming. You're probably thinking about a raise.
Of course.
Meanwhile, everyone else in the office is trying not to laugh because you have just been completely roasted. You've just been told in a very polite way that you're an idiot.
It's brutal.
It is. And British English relies so heavily on this high context communication. The meaning isn't in the word brilliant. It's in the pause, the tone, the raised eyebrow. The listener has to do the work.
Whereas the American style is much more what you see is what you get.
Generally, yeah. It's low context. It values clarity. If an American says, good job, they usually mean it. If they want to critique you, they'll probably say, maybe try this differently. It's explicit.
I love the other example they gave, the phrase, well, that was certainly something.
Oh, that's a deadly phrase, a weaponized phrase.
It sounds so harmless. Everything is something.
But in British English, it's a polite but absolutely devastating takedown. It means, I have nothing nice to say about this, so I will simply acknowledge its existence and move on.
And an American might just hear, oh, it was interesting.
Totally. They miss the criticism entirely. One person thinks they've been crystal clear. I practically yelled that it was terrible, and the other person thinks everything is fine.
So, note to self. If a British person calls your work something, maybe, don't put it in your portfolio.
Please don't.
Okay, let's move from social ruin to something more urgent. Food. We have to talk about the chip matrix.
The chip matrix, a classic. It's this triangular problem of potato words that has caused so much confusion.
All right, let's clear this up once and for all. I'm in the UK. I walk into a pub. I order chips. What am I getting?
You're getting thick-cut fried potatoes. Hot. Substantial. What an American might call a steak fry.
Got it. Now I'm in the US. I order chips.
You get a bag of Lay's?
Right.
Or Doritos? Thin, crispy snacks, what a Brit would call crisps.
And to complete the triangle, in the US, if I want the hot potato thing, I have to ask for
Fries, French fries.
It sounds so simple laid out like that, but in the moment, you just want some potatoes.
It's a genuine letdown when you expect a hot side dish and you get a snack in a bag.
But the stakes are even higher with biscuits. This one from the source really got me. These are two completely different foods.
This is the biscuit tragedy. In the UK, a biscuit is a cookie, a sweet, crunchy thing you have with tea.
Right, so imagine you're a British tourist in the American South. You see biscuits and gravy on the menu, and you're thinking, oh, lovely. A sweet cookie with maybe a chocolate sauce or a custard. And what arrives?
A savory, heavy, scone-like thing, completely smothered in a white, sausage-based meat sauce.
That's a shock to the system.
It's a genuine moment of cognitive dissonance. Your brain was expecting sugar and crunch, and it gets soft dough and meat. It feels like a betrayal.
It's like biting into a chocolate chip cookie and realizing it's oatmeal raisin, but a million times worse.
Exactly.
Okay, now for the real danger zone, the high-stakes words. The false friends.
Right. These are the words that look and sound the same, but have completely different meanings, and the source is very clear. The biggest minefield is clothing.
Specifically, the word pants.
The one that causes the most blushing. In the U.S., pants means trousers. Jeans, slacks, whatever. The outerwear on your legs.
But in the UK...
In the UK, pants means underwear.
Just underwear. That is a massive, massive difference.
It is a critical distinction.
So the source gives this scenario. An American tourist sees a Brit with cool jeans on and says, trying to be nice, "Hey, I really like your pants."
To the American, that's just a harmless compliment. Cool trousers.
But to the Brit,
a complete stranger has just walked up and announced that they are admiring your underwear. It's creepy. It's weird. It's incredibly awkward.
I'm cringing just thinking about it. You go from friendly tourist to total creep in 2 seconds.
And the Brit is thinking, how can they even see them? Is my zipper down? It's panic-inducing.
And it doesn't stop there. What about suspenders?
Right. In the U.S., suspenders hold up your trousers. The straps over your shoulders.
And in the UK?
In the UK, those are called braces. Suspenders are part of lingerie used to hold up stockings.
So walking into a menswear shop in London and asking for suspenders is not going to go well.
You are sending a very, very different signal than you intend to.
The lesson here is be so careful with clothing words. Maybe just point.
Pointing is definitely safer.
All right, let's shift to the smaller stuff. The grammar, the prepositions, the things that immediately mark you as an outsider.
Yeah, these are often the hardest habits to break because they're muscle memory. The source brings up waiting in line.
In New York, you wait online.
Which is strange because in the UK, you wait in the queue. And the word queue itself is so important. It's not just a line. It's a sacred cultural concept.
It's about order, right?
Fairness. Exactly. It implies a social contract. You do not cut the queue. Online just feels more descriptive. In the queue is like an act of civilization.
What about time? In the US, I'll do something on the weekend.
And a Brit would say, at the weekend. It's so subtle, but to a native ear, the wrong one just sounds, it's like a wrong note in a song.
And we have to mention spelling. The U in color.
The great U dilemma. An ear versus in words like center.
Why is that, anyway?
Well, a lot of the American spellings were standardized by a guy named Noah Webster.
The dictionary guy.
That's him. He wanted to simplify spelling and, create a distinct American identity separate from Britain. So he just chopped out letters he thought were unnecessary.
Yeah.
He was a bit of a linguistic rebel.
It's amazing how angry a little red squiggly line from a spell check can make you.
It's a constant reminder of that divide.
The source also had some great key phrases. Taking the mickey.
A classic. Just means teasing someone, making fun of them in a usually affectionate way.
And sorted. I hear that one more and more.
Sorted is a wonderful word. It means fixed, arranged, handled. Don't worry, I'll get it sorted. It implies a finality that fixed doesn't always have.
I loved the story in the source about asking for a rubbish bin in New York.
Right, instead of a trash can.
She said trash can just felt foreign and weird to say.
Which is funny because to an American, rubbish bin sounds so formal, almost Dickensian. It just shows you how attached we get to our own words.
And of course, lift versus elevator.
That's the classic test, isn't it? The first tell.
Now, we've been talking about British and American English like they're two single things, but the source makes a really important point about regional variety.
This is so crucial. There is no single British accent. That is a myth. The accent in Newcastle is wildly different from the accent in London.
As different as Boston and Texas, maybe more so.
Oh, definitely more so. The dialects in the UK are incredibly dense. You can drive for an hour, and the slang, the vowels, everything changes. The US is much more homogenous by comparison.
So for anyone listening who wants to actually master this, what's the strategy? How do we adapt?
Well, the source suggests a couple of things. The first is immersion in media. If you want to get crisp, formal British English, they say watch The Crown.
Very precise. A lot of one must do one's duty.
Exactly. But if you want to understand American slang and conversational rhythm, watch Friends or the US version of The Office.
Pop culture as the new textbook.
It's the best textbook because it gives you the context, you see the reaction, you learn what the words actually do in a conversation.
And the other strategy is just asking.
Inquiry. It sounds so simple, but people are afraid to look silly. But it's okay to say, sorry, what does taking the mickey mean? Most people are happy to explain.
It shows you're actually trying to connect.
Right. And the ultimate goal isn't to pick a side. It's to be able to code switch.
A linguistic chameleon.
In a way, yeah. It's adapting to your environment. If you're in London, try to say Q. If you're in New York, say fries. It's not about being right. Neither is right. It's about removing the friction from the conversation.
It's about meeting people where they are.
Exactly.
So we've gone from potato confusion to accidental underwear compliments. It has been a journey.
I think the real takeaway here is that language is all about connection. And when we ignore these little nuances, we risk isolating ourselves. Understanding these differences, even the silly ones about biscuits, is really an act of empathy.
It's the difference between being a tourist who just expects everyone to understand them and being a guest who respects the local rules.
Well said.
And as we wrap this up, we want to leave you with a final thought. We've talked about how British English often relies on this high context sarcasm, the meaning is in the gaps, while American English values directness.
Which raises a really profound question. If our language shapes how we see the world, does this mean we're actually processing reality differently?
Right. Does a culture that speaks in irony experience emotions differently than a culture that says exactly what it means? Are we just using different codes for the same human experience?
Or does the code itself actually change the experience? It's that classic question. Are we just describing the world with our words, or are we creating it?
Something to think about the next time you order a side of chips or fries. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. See you next time.
Welcome back to The Deep Dive. It is great to have you with us.
Great to be here.
Today, we are opening up a file that I think, it creates a false sense of security for a lot of people. It's a topic that looks incredibly friendly on the surface, deceptively so, but is actually riddled with traps. We are talking about English.
Specifically, the illusion that American English and British English are the same operating system.
Right. It's that famous quote, often attributed to George Bernard Shaw, though, some say Oscar Wilde, that the United States and Great Britain are two nations divided by a common language.
And that's not just a clever line for a dinner party.
Wow.
When you really dig into the source material we have today, that division isn't just about accents or, spelling color with or without a U. It's about fundamental communication breakdowns.
It is. And the danger, I think, really comes from that assumption of sameness.
Exactly. If you, an English speaker, go to France or Japan, you don't speak the language. So you're careful.
You tread lightly. You have Google Translate open.
You're on high alert. But if you are an American in London or a Brit in New York, you just stride in confidently.
Of course.
You assume the words you are using map one-to-one with reality. And the sources we're analyzing today showed that they absolutely do not.
And just to be clear for everyone listening, we aren't just talking about the safe touristy stuff here.
No.
We aren't going to spend an hour debating chips versus fries or cookies versus biscuits. I think people mostly know those.
We're going deeper.
We are looking at what the research calls cultural landmines. These are the specific flashpoints where a word doesn't just mean something different, it means something dangerous.
Dangerous to your social standing, definitely dangerous to your business negotiations, and sometimes, frankly, dangerous to your dignity.
Exactly. So here is the mission for this deep dive. We're going to try and equip you with a linguistic survival kit.
A navigational chart for the minefield.
I like that. We're going to look at the words that turn innocent request into, crude propositions. We're going to dissect business terms that mean the exact opposite, depending on which side of the Atlantic you're on, and I mean 180 degrees opposite.
And we're also going to get into the really subtle stuff, the emotional subtext, the The physics of sound.
It is a bit of a minefield, as you said, but we will guide you through it. And I think the most impactful place to start, the place with the biggest explosions, is with the social landmines.
Yes. The sources categorize these as false friends.
I love that term, false friends. It sounds like a spy thriller, doesn't it?
It does, but in linguistics, it's a very specific technical term.
Okay.
It refers to a word that looks and sounds exactly like a word you know, but it carries a completely different, often contradictory, meaning in the target dialect or language.
And the rubber versus eraser debacle is the ultimate false friend. The textbook example.
It really is. It's the classic classroom catastrophe.
I was reading the anecdotes and the research, and this scenario plays out almost identically every single time. It's like a horror movie script you see repeated.
It is. You have an American family, they move to the UK, they send their 7-year-old, let's call him Timmy, off to a British primary school.
Right. So little Timmy is sitting there, maybe doing some math.
Maths?
Right. Maths with the S, which is a whole other thing we will absolutely get to later.
A rabbit hole for later, yes.
So the kid makes a mistake on their worksheet. They just want to correct it. They raise their hand, and in this sweet, innocent little voice, they ask the teacher, "Can I have a rubber?"
And the room freezes. A dead silence falls over a class of 37-year-olds.
Which is an achievement in itself.
A rare event. And to understand why, you have to look at the etymology. In the US, the word rubber is purely functional.
Right. It's a thing.
It comes from the material vulcanized rubber that was historically used to, well, rub out pencil marks.
Sippen?
It's a noun describing a material object used for stationery. It's as neutral as asking for a stapler or a paperclip.
Pass me the rubber. No one bats an eye.
But in the UK, the word rubber underwent a massive semantic drift. It went in a completely different direction.
And not a G-rated one.
No, it became a slang term. And specifically, it is the primary, most common slang term for a condom.
So you essentially have a second grader asking a teacher for a contraceptive in the middle of a silent classroom.
That is exactly what is happening. And the sources point out that for the British teacher, this is a moment of just intense cognitive dissonance.
I can't even imagine.
Because on one hand, they know the child is American. They can probably guess what the child means intellectually.
Sure, they can connect the dots.
But the word itself is so socially charged in that context that it triggers a visceral reaction. It is almost impossible to suppress the initial shock.
And what about the other kids, the British kids in the class?
Well, they're 7, so you get this wave of stifled giggles spreading across the room. They know exactly what the word means in their world, and they cannot believe someone just said it to the teacher.
And with the American child, it's just traumatizing.
Utterly. They have no idea why the class is laughing or why the teacher looks horrified. They just wanted to fix a math problem. It's a perfect example of how an identical word can exist in 2 completely separate social universes.
So what's the fix? What should poor Timmy have said?
The fix is simple, but you have to know it. In the UK, the word is exclusively eraser.
Eraser.
It's derived from the action to erase. It's clinical, it's precise, and it won't get you sent to the principal's office.
Or the headmaster's office, I suppose.
Precisely. You ask for an eraser, you get an eraser. You ask for a rubber, you get a very awkward conversation with your parents later that day.
Okay, so that's a classroom accident. It's embarrassing, but it's contained.
Right.
But there's another false friend that happens to adults, usually tourists, and it involves, of all things, fashion. The fanny pack.
Ah, yes. This is a fascinating one because it highlights how anatomical terms can evolve so differently in, relatively isolated populations.
In the U.S., the word fanny it's very soft. It's almost a childish term for your buttocks, your behind.
Right. It's something a grandmother might say. You fell and hurt your fanny. Or sit on your fanny. It's totally benign.
So back in the 80s or 90s when those waist bags became popular, calling them fanny packs made perfect sense. It's a pack that rests near your fanny. It's descriptive.
It's logical. It follows the rules. But if you walk into a shop on Oxford Street in London and ask for a fanny pack, you are going to get a very, very different reaction than you would at a Walmart in Ohio.
Because fanny traveled a very different evolutionary path in the UK.
Drastically different. In British English, fanny is not the rear end. It is a crude slang term for female genitalia.
And not in a clinical, medical way.
No, not at all. It is considered vulgar. On the scale of profanity, it's up there. It's essentially a swear word.
So if you're an American tourist proudly shouting to your friend across a crowded London street, hey, have you seen my fanny pack?
You are essentially announcing that you have a bag specifically designed for your genitals.
It turns a mundane fashion accessory into something deeply inappropriate and anatomically specific.
It's jarring. And the sources mention that this is one of those errors that doesn't just cause confusion, it can cause genuine offense. People might think you're being deliberately crude or aggressive.
They might think you're trying to make some kind of, a provocative statement.
Exactly. When all you're looking for is a place to put your keys in your wallet.
And the irony is, the item itself is incredibly popular in the UK, right? You see them everywhere.
Oh, absolutely. People wear them at music festivals, going for a run, everywhere. They're very fashionable again.
So what on earth do they call them? Because they obviously aren't calling them that.
They call it a bum bag.
A bum bag, which to my American ears sounds hilarious.
I can imagine.
In the US, a bum is usually a derogatory term for a homeless person or, someone who's lazy. He's just a bum.
Right. But in the UK, bum is the standard, harmless, everyday word for buttocks. It is the direct equivalent of the American butt.
So bum bag is the direct, literal translation of what Americans think fanny pack means.
It's a complete inversion of terminology. The British bum is the American fanny, and the British fanny is something else entirely.
So the rule here for any traveler is, if you are crossing the Atlantic, just delete the word fanny from your active vocabulary.
That is the safest bet. Erase it completely. Stick to bum bag. Or if you want to be totally safe and neutral, you can say waist bag or built bag.
That seems like the smart play.
It avoids all potential for awkwardness.
Okay, so those are the social landmines. You might get laughed at, you might get a stern look from a teacher. But I want to pivot now to where this gets expensive.
The boardroom.
Yes. We need to talk about the boardroom battlefield.
This is where the stakes change significantly. In a social setting, people might forgive you because, you're a tourist, you don't know any better.
There's some grace.
There's grace. In business, a misunderstanding costs money. It costs time. It can derail a project. And there are words in business English that act like saboteurs.
And the biggest saboteur in all the documents we reviewed seems to be the word table, which is so strange because it's such a solid, physical object. You wouldn't think it could cause so much chaos.
It's the verb form that's the problem. To table emotion. This is a classic, and I mean classic, case of diametric opposition. The definitions aren't just a little different, they are 180 degrees apart.
Okay, let's break this down. Let's maybe role play this a bit. I'm an American CEO. I'm in a heated board meeting with my London team. We're arguing about a potential merger. It's getting late. Tempers are frayed.
A high-stakes situation.
Exactly. I look at the clock. I'm tired. And I say, okay, folks, let's table this. What is my intent? What do I mean by that?
Your intent, based on American parliamentary procedure, think Robert's Rules of Order, is to postpone the discussion.
To stop it.
Yes. You are taking the topic and putting it away on the table or, the image is putting it on the shelf to sit there idle until a later date, maybe indefinitely. You are killing the conversation for now.
Right. I'm putting it aside. Let's table it. I'm done with it for today. We'll pick it up next quarter, maybe.
But your British team, sitting across that very table, here's the exact opposite.
No.
In British parliamentary tradition, to table a motion means to bring it to the table, to lay it on the table for everyone to see.
So, to discuss it now.
To discuss it immediately. It means, let's stop the other chatter and focus on this right now. This is the priority.
Oh, wow. So I think I've just hit the pause button.
And they think you've just hit the big red go button.
That's a nightmare.
Yeah.
I can just picture the scene.
You can visualize the confusion, can't you?
Yeah.
You, the American CEO, start packing up your papers. Maybe you close your laptop, ready to move on to the next agenda item, or just go home.
Yeah, I'm thinking, great, that's settled for now.
And the British team leans in. They open their notebooks, they pick up their pens, and they start debating the finer points of the merger with renewed vigor.
And I'm sitting there thinking, why are they being so disrespectful? Why are they ignoring me? I said we're done.
And they're looking at you thinking, finally, the boss wants to get serious about this. Let's hammer out the details.
It creates this massive, invisible misalignment of expectations. It's a total breakdown.
And if you leave that meeting without clarifying, you have two teams working toward completely different goals and timelines. One team thinks the project is dead in the water. The other thinks it's priority number one.
And a week later, everything is a mess. That is a recipe for absolute disaster. Is the takeaway here to just what, ban the word table as a verb in any international meeting?
Honestly, I think so. That's what the experts and the sources recommend. In international business, the best practice is to avoid idioms that rely on these kinds of spatial metaphors.
Be explicit.
Be painfully explicit. Say, let's postpone this discussion until next week, or let's focus on this topic right now. Don't leave any room for the table to flip on you, so to speak.
Okay, that's a big one. But there's another business word that came up in the notes that is much, much sneakier. It's not an opposite meaning, but it's a difference in amplitude, a difference in volume. The word quite.
The quite trap. This is so subtle, but it absolutely destroys performance reviews and feedback sessions. It's all about the perceived intensity of the word.
Okay, let's start with the U.S. side. In the U.S., quite is a strong intensifier. If I tell you, your analysis was quite good, I'm emphasizing the good.
Right.
I mean, it's very good. It was excellent. It's a solid compliment. It's arguably stronger than just saying good.
It's glowing praise. It means you've exceeded expectations. You hear quite good from your American boss. You're thinking about a promotion.
But in the UK, quite does the opposite job. It acts as a mitigator.
Exactly. It softens or lessens the word that follows. It means somewhat, fairly, or reasonably. It's a qualifier.
So in Britain, quite good means not bad.
It means acceptable. It means it meets the minimum standard, but that's it. It often implies a reservation. It was quite good, considering you didn't have much time. It is absolutely distinct from very good. It's actually a form of damning with faint praise.
That is terrifying for an employee. You can just imagine the scenarios. An American manager is giving a performance review to a British employee. The manager says, your work this year has been quite impressive.
The American manager thinks they just gave the employee an A+. They're smiling, they feel great.
And the British employee walks away thinking, he thinks my work is just mediocre. I need to update my CV. He said it was only quite impressive.
It's a total disconnect. And it works the other way, too, which might be even more dangerous.
How so?
A British boss tells an American employee, this report you submitted is quite good.
Okay, the American hears that.
The American high-fives their team. They go out for drinks, thinking they absolutely nailed it. They're waiting for the praise to continue.
But the British boss is actually thinking.
The boss is thinking, okay, this is a passable first draft, but I'm waiting for the much improved final version. They've given feedback that work is needed, but the American completely missed the subtext.
And then the boss gets angry when the final version never arrives, because the American thinks they're already done.
And it creates this invisible friction. The American thinks the Brit is cold and hard to please. The Brit thinks the American is arrogant and delusional about their own performance.
And it all hinges on the calibration of that one little word.
The calibration, that's the perfect way to put it.
It really connects to this broader theme that came up again and again in the research, which is about decoding emotional subtext. It feels like the US and the UK are just operating on different emotional volume knobs.
That's a great analogy. Generally speaking, American English, and by extension American culture, is calibrated to a higher volume of enthusiasm and directness.
We tend to be more explicit with our feelings.
Right. British English, on the other hand, is calibrated to understatement.
The famous stiff upper lip.
Yes, though it's evolved, I don't think it's just about stoicism anymore. It's more about social harmony. In the UK, minimizing your expressed emotion is a way of being polite. It's about not imposing your feelings on others. You don't want to make a scene or make other people feel uncomfortable with your big emotions.
Whereas in the US, amplifying your emotion is a way of showing engagement and optimism. It's seen as a positive.
It's seen as authentic. And this difference leads to some major misinterpretations, especially around negative emotions.
The source material had this section called the anger scale. This part made me laugh, but it's actually really, really serious.
It is deadly serious in a negotiation or a personal relationship. If a British person is absolutely furious, I mean, incandescent with rage, plotting your demise, they will often reach for a phrase like, I'm a bit disappointed, or maybe I'm rather cross about that.
A bit disappointed. To an American, that sounds like you didn't get the table you wanted at a restaurant. It sounds like a very minor inconvenience.
Exactly. An American hears a bit disappointed, and their internal threat-o-meter barely registers a blip. They think, okay, no big deal, we can tweak that, we'll fix it next week.
But the British person has already decided the project is a failure, and they're never working with you again.
Precisely. The American doesn't realize that the bridge is on fire and collapsing into the river. They miss the 5-alarm warning signal because the volume was just too low.
Whereas if an American is angry, you know it. We're not subtle. We say, I am incredibly upset, or this is completely unacceptable, or just I am furious.
The American signal matches the internal state. The volume is turned up to 11. The British signal deliberately suppresses it.
And this leads to deals falling apart. The American side keeps pushing, thinking they're just dealing with a minor objection because the Brit is only a bit miffed, when actually the Brit has already mentally walked away from the deal entirely.
It's a classic case of talking past each other. And it's not limited to anger. It happens with positive emotions, too.
Oh, yeah. We absolutely have to talk about the awesome inflation.
Awesome. It is the Swiss Army knife of American adjectives.
I use it constantly. I probably said it 3 times this morning. Can you pass the salt? Awesome. You're here on time. Awesome. This bagel. It's awesome.
In the U.S., the word awesome has undergone what linguists call semantic bleaching.
Semantic bleaching, what does that mean?
It means it's been used so much that it has lost its original strong meaning. The color has been washed out of it.
Its original meaning being to inspire awe.
Right. True. Genuine awe. But now it just means good or acknowledged or thank you. It's a verbal thumbs up. It's conversational glue.
But in the UK?
The word retains its original weight. It's still a very strong word. Awesome is reserved for the Grand Canyon or the moon landing or a breathtaking piece of music.
So if I'm in London and I tell a waiter that my cup of tea is awesome, what do I sound like?
You sound insincere. Or, as the British might say, you sound over the top.
Like I'm exaggerating.
Exactly. It can create a barrier of trust. The British listener might think, this person can't be genuine. If a simple cup of tea is awesome to you, then nothing is actually awesome. Your scale is broken.
So they might filter me out. They think, this person is selling something. They're not being real.
It can come across as, well, a bit naive or even childish to a British ear that's tuned to a more understated frequency.
It's a calibration issue again, isn't it? If you're an American in the UK, you need to dial down the superlatives. Maybe swap awesome for lovely or brilliant.
Lovely is a great one. And brilliant. And if you're a Brit in the US, you might need to fake a little enthusiasm just to register as alive to the Americans you're talking to.
That's fair. American might read that British understatement as boredom or disinterest?
Completely. The Brit says, that's a very sensible idea, meaning it's a brilliant plan and we should do it.
And the American hears, he must hate it. Sensible sounds so boring. He thinks my idea has no creativity.
When in reality, a sensible solution is about the highest praise you can get in a British boardroom. It means it's practical, smart, and effective.
That's incredible. Okay, we've covered words that mean different things. We've covered emotions. But we can't do a deep dive on language without talking about the sounds themselves, the actual pronunciation.
Segment 4, the sounds of separation.
This is where we get into the phonetics and the spelling.
Yeah.
The audible markers that instantly identify you as an outsider the moment you open your mouth.
And these are often the things people notice first.
The classic one that always comes up is schedule.
Right. In the US, it's a hard K sound, schedule.
Schedule.
Schedule. And this is derived from the Greek root skida, which meant a strip or a leaf of paper. The Americans kept that hard Greek K sound.
But in the UK, it's soft. It's a sh sound. Shiddle.
Like a garden shed. Shiddle.
Is there a reason for that? A rule?
There's no strict rule on why this diverged English pronunciation is notoriously chaotic and full of exceptions, but it has become what linguists call a shibboleth.
A shibboleth.
It's a linguistic marker. A word whose pronunciation identifies you as belonging to a particular group. You say schedule in a British meeting, and you've just waved a big American flag.
Okay, that was pretty well known. But the one that drives scientists crazy, and I know we have listeners in STEM fields who will care about this, is the metal in the soda can.
Aluminum or...
Aluminum.
This isn't just pronunciation, is it? The spelling is actually different.
The spelling is different. The number of syllables is different.
I always thought the British just added an extra syllable to sound a bit fancier. Aluminium has a certain ring to it.
It flows like titanium or uranium or magnesium.
Yeah.
Well, that was actually the logic. This goes back to Sir Humphrey Davy, the British chemist who identified the metal in the early 1800s.
The guy who discovered it.
The guy. And he actually waffled on the name. He was all over the place. He started with aluminum, then he changed it to aluminum.
Wait, so the guy who discovered it originally called it aluminum, the American way? Briefly, yes. That was one of his proposals. But his British colleagues in the scientific community argued that aluminum sounded too darkly. Well, it didn't sound right. It lacked the classical dignity of the other elements.
It didn't fit the pattern.
It didn't fit the Ileum pattern of elements like magnesium, lithium, and sodium. So they effectively outvoted him and persuaded him to add the extra I, hence aluminium.
So the British version was an intentional edit for the sake of scientific and linguistic consistency.
Yes, it was a conscious choice.
Yeah.
But the Americans, and specifically the American Chemical Society, decided to stick with Davy's earlier, shorter version, aluminum. It was seen as more efficient, less fussy.
That tracks perfectly, doesn't it? It's a perfect little story.
Yeah.
The Brits choose tradition and classical consistency. The Americans choose efficiency and speed.
It is a perfect microcosm of the two cultures, all wrapped up in one little element. And now, IUPAI, the global body that decides these things, officially accepts aluminium as the standard international name.
So the Brits won.
But they also list aluminum as an acceptable variant. So technically, the Brits won the science war on that one, but the Americans refused to surrender.
I will not tell my high school chemistry teacher that. What about the kitchen war? The green stuff you put in your food.
Herbs.
See, I say herbs, I drop the H. The H is silent to me, like an hour or honor or honest. It just feels natural.
And this is a fascinating reversal of expectations. This is a legacy of the French influence on English.
Okay.
The word comes from the Old French herb. And for centuries, all English speakers dropped the H. It was the standard, correct pronunciation on both sides of the Atlantic.
So herb was the original way.
Yes.
Oh.
But in the 19th century, during the Victorian era in Britain, there was a big social movement to correct the language, to make spelling and pronunciation match more closely.
The Victorians.
They looked at the word herb, they saw the written H, and they decided, well, we should probably pronounce that. So they started adding the H sound back in.
So the British actually added the H sound back in. They innovated.
Correct. The American pronunciation herb is actually the older, more traditional, more conservative pronunciation. The British pronunciation is the newer one.
That completely flips the script. Usually, we assume American English is the corrupted or simplified version, but here we're keeping it old school.
You are. But perception is reality, right?
Right.
To a modern British ear, dropping the H sounds, well, it sounds a little odd.
What does it sound like?
It sounds like you're talking about a man named Herb. I'm going to chop up some herb for the stew.
It sounds like cannibalism.
A little bit, yeah. Poor Herb.
All right, poor herb. Okay, we have one last segment, and this one is purely logistical. It's about how we navigate physical space. Because it turns out even the buildings are trying to trick us.
The first floor trap. This is the one that makes people late for parties and miss meetings.
In the U.S., the system is, I think, very intuitive. You walk off the street, you enter the building, you are on the first floor.
Right.
Ground floor equals first floor. They are synonyms for the same thing. Level 1.
Simple. But in the UK, and honestly this is true for most of Europe, the logic is different. The ground floor is level 0. It is its own distinct thing.
It's the starting point.
It's the starting point. The first floor is the first floor up from the ground. It's the second level of the building.
So if I get in an elevator in London and press the button marked 1,
You are going up one level from where you started. If you press 1 in a New York elevator, the doors just open again because you're already there.
I have a distinct memory of being in a hotel in London, looking for my room on the first floor. I was wandering around the lobby for 10 minutes, getting more and more frustrated. I felt like an idiot.
Because you were on the ground floor. The room you were looking for was directly above your head the whole time.
I had to ask someone, and they looked at me like I had 2 heads.
It's a fundamental difference in how we map vertical space. It feels like a small thing, but when you're disoriented in a new city, it can be really maddening.
It really can.
Yeah.
And then there's how we behave in that space, specifically how we wait. The waiting game.
They're cute.
In the U.S., we wait in line. It's a simple description of the geometry.
Mm-hmm.
We are standing in a line.
It's a physical description.
But in the UK, you queue. And queuing is almost, it's like a religion. It's not just a physical line. It's a sacred social contract.
That's a very good way of putting it. The act of queuing is deeply ingrained in the British psyche.
You hear phrases like, join the queue, or mind the queue. It has this gravity to it.
It does. If you ask a British person, are you in line? They will understand you, of course, but it sounds foreign. It sounds a little abrupt or casual.
Whereas if you ask, are you in the queue?
You are acknowledging the social order. You are signaling that you respect the rules of this sacred act. You're one of us.
It feels like waiting in line is a nuisance. It's something we have to endure to get what we want. Queuing feels more like a civic duty.
That's a very sharp distinction, and I think it's spot on. And using the right term just helps you blend in. It shows you understand the local code of conduct.
So, wow. We've covered a lot of ground here. From condoms disguised as erasers, to boardrooms being blown up by the word table, to the emotional volume knob being stuck on completely different settings. It feels a little overwhelming.
It can be. It can feel like you're guaranteed to make a mistake.
Yeah.
But the synthesis of all this research, the main point that all the sources come back to, is actually quite encouraging.
Okay.
The key takeaway is context is king.
Meaning, don't panic.
Don't panic. Human beings are incredibly good at pattern recognition and decoding context. If you are in that boardroom and someone says, let's table this, and then they lean forward and continue talking about it, trust your eyes, not just your ears.
The context of their actions overrides the dictionary definition you have in your head.
It almost always does. You'll see the nonverbal cues. You'll see what everyone else in the room is doing. Context usually saves the day.
And the other big piece of advice that came out of the sources is, when in doubt, just ask. Clarify.
Absolutely. If you feel that slight friction, that little moment of confusion where you think, wait, that sounded weird, don't just ignore it and hope for the best.
Speak up.
Speak up. Ask the question. Sorry, just to be clear, do you mean we're postponing this, or are we discussing it now?
Or, when you say quite good, could you tell me what that means in terms of next steps?
Exactly. And that vulnerability is actually a strength. It shows you care about clear communication. It shows you care about getting it right.
And people probably appreciate that.
Honestly, people love talking about these differences. It's a great icebreaker. If you ask a Brit, wait, why do you say aluminium with an extra I? You'll probably have a great 10-minute conversation about Sir Humphrey Davy and the history of chemistry.
It breaks the ice instead of creating a wall.
It does. It acknowledges that we are different, and that's okay. And that brings us right back to the start, to that quote.
Two nations divided by a common tongue.
The common tongue separates us, but it also gives us something fascinating to explore together. The friction is where the fun is. The confusion is part of the story.
I like that. If it was all exactly the same, travel would be boring. The first floor of confusion is just part of the adventure of being somewhere new.
Exactly. So to our listener, the final thought is just stay curious, keep your ears open, don't be afraid to make a mistake, because it's the only way you learn.
And maybe, if you're in a London classroom,
maybe just ask for a pencil to be safe. Avoid the whole problem.
Sound advice. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us into the weird, the wonderful, and the occasionally dangerous world of transatlantic English.
It's been a real pleasure.
We'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Welcome back to the deep dive. I want to start today with a concept that I think we have all felt, but maybe haven't put a name to. You know, the uncanny valley.
In robotics, sure. It's that feeling of revulsion you get when a robot looks almost human, but not quite.
Yes.
It's the almost that makes it creepy.
Exactly. Well, I think there is a linguistic version of that, a communication uncanny valley. It happens when you are speaking to someone who, technically speaks your language.
Right.
The grammar is right, the words are recognizable, but the meaning is just, it's off. Something feels wrong.
That is a fascinating way to frame it. You aren't struggling with a foreign language like Mandarin or Arabic, where the barrier is obvious and you expect it.
No.
You are struggling with this invisible barrier of cultural intent, of shared meaning.
Exactly. And that is where we are living today. We're crossing the pond to look at the deceptive, treacherous, and honestly, the hilarious divide between British and American English.
And we should be clear from the top, this isn't about the simple stuff.
No, not at all. We aren't talking about spelling color with a U or tire with a Y.
That's kid stuff. That's level 1.
We are digging much, much deeper. We are looking at the social minefields, the moments where you think you are being polite, but you're actually being rude.
Or where you think you're expressing passion for your job, but you're actually confessing to a substance abuse problem to your boss.
The stakes are surprisingly high. And we are basing this discussion on a really rich text today. It's a transcript from the Advanced Learner Studio featuring hosts Emma and John.
And they just wrapped up a series on what they call the subtle art of social interaction. This final part is all about etiquette, arguing, and regional identity.
It's just a fantastic source.
What stands out to me about Emma and John's approach in this source materials is that they treat language as a survival skill. It's not academic.
No, it's practical.
They aren't just teaching vocabulary lists. They are trying to save the listener from, social death. They argue that traditional textbooks fail specifically because they strip away the messiness of real life.
And real life is messy. So our mission today is to decode those hidden rules. We're going to look at the greetings that induce panic attacks, the slang that gets you fired, and the absolute chaos of British dialects.
It is less of a language lesson and more of a psychological profile of two nations separated by a common tongue.
So let's jump right in with the very first interaction you have with a human being, the greeting. You walk into a room, you see a friend or a colleague, and you say hello.
Section 1, the greeting paradox.
So Emma, in the source material, describes this scenario. She's in London, she walks into a room, and someone looks her in the eye, maybe a colleague, maybe an acquaintance, and says, "You all right?"
Or sometimes even less, just a nod and all right.
Right. And to a British ear, that is the default setting. It is the most neutral, standard way to acknowledge another person's existence. It's like verbal wallpaper.
It barely even registers as a question.
But let's pause and look at this through the American lens. Because I have to tell you, the first time this happened to me, I had a visceral, physical reaction.
What happened? What did you feel?
Panic. Pure, unadulterated panic. Because in American English, if you ask someone, "Are you all right?" it is a specific, targeted question triggered by an observation.
Right. It means, I see evidence to the contrary.
Exactly. It implies that I look not all right. My internal monologue just goes into overdrive. It goes something like this. "Oh, God, do I look sick? Is my face pale? Am I sweating? Is my hair standing up?"
You immediately start scanning your own body for faults.
100%. Do I have spinach in my teeth? Why are they worried about me?
I'm suddenly reviewing my sleep history from the last week.
You're running a self-diagnostic.
Yes. I felt fine when I left the house, but maybe I look like death.
But here is the thing, and John points this out beautifully in the source. The British speaker isn't looking at my face at all, are they?
Not really. They aren't diagnosing you. This is what linguists call a phatic expression.
Phatic. Can you break that down?
Yeah, phatic communication is speech that's used to establish a social connection rather than to communicate information. Think of it like a digital ping.
Like on a computer network. Checking a server connection.
That's the perfect analogy. It's a TCP/IP ping. When a Brit says, "You all right?" they are sending a tiny packet of data just to see if you are online.
Just to confirm the connection is active.
Exactly. They are checking the connection. Are we good? Yes, we are good. That's the entire transaction.
And the American mistake is assuming they want to download a file.
Precisely. You try to send them a 5 gigabyte file of your emotional state or your medical history. "Well, actually, my back has been hurting and I didn't sleep well and I'm worried about this deadline."
And the Brit is horrified.
They are horrified because they just wanted an ACK and acknowledgement. They asked for a ping back, and you've started a massive data transfer they never requested and do not want.
It's an efficiency mismatch. It's a protocol error.
It is. The source material highlights the correct response, and it's very specific and rigid. John says the only correct answer is, "Yeah, good thanks, you."
That's it. No, actually, I'm having a rough day.
Absolutely not. That breaks the ritual. It shatters the social contract. The "you all right" greeting is a closed loop. You close it by saying, "Yeah, good," and then you move on to the actual conversation, if there is one.
And if you don't, you actually answer the question,
you're seen as a bit strange. Maybe you lack social awareness, or you're an oversharer. You failed the first and simplest test of British social interaction.
It's funny because the source contrasts this with the American version. John mentions that in the US we say, "What's up?" or "How are you doing?" And apparently that confuses Brits just as much.
Well, think about "how are you doing" from a British perspective. It sounds kind of intrusive.
Intrusive. Really, to me, it's the most generic greeting possible.
But it's an open-ended question. It invites a narrative. If I ask, "How are you doing?" Hi, I'm grammatically asking for a description of your state of being.
But no one expects a real answer.
An American doesn't, but a British person might take it more literally. To a reserved British person who maybe just wants to get a coffee, that feels like a lot of pressure. It feels like, "Why do you want to know? Are we close enough for me to tell you how I am doing?"
So we see "you all right" as a criticism of our appearance, and they see "how are you doing" as an invasion of privacy.
In a way, yes. It comes down to cultural values, I think. British culture often values what linguists call negative politeness, which is about respecting privacy and not imposing on others, is perfect for that. It's minimal, it's quick, it asks nothing of you.
Yeah.
American culture often values positive politeness, showing interest, building rapport, being enthusiastic, how are you doing, signals that interest, even if it's just a formula.
So the takeaway here for the listener is, don't check the mirror. If a Brit asks if you're all right, you don't look like a zombie.
You look fine. They're just pinging the server.
Just ping back and keep moving.
And for God's sake, don't send them the file.
Okay, so we've survived the greeting. We haven't embarrassed ourselves yet. But now we are going to ratchet up the stakes. We are moving from awkward social moments to potential career suicide.
We are entering section 2, the pissed danger zone.
This is one of those words where I feel like everyone kind of knows there's a difference, but they don't realize how dangerous it is until they are in the room.
It's a classic false friend. The word is identical, same spelling, same pronunciation. But the semantic fields don't just differ. They are almost opposites in terms of professional acceptability.
So let's define terms, just to be crystal clear. In the U.S., pissed is short for pissed off.
Which means angry, frustrated, annoyed, irritated.
And in the U.S., expressing that you are pissed about something, especially at work, can actually be a positive thing.
How so? That's interesting.
Well, think about the American corporate ethos. We value passion. We value ownership. If I say, I am so pissed that we lost that client, or I am pissed about these delays, I'm signaling that I care.
Yeah.
I'm signaling that I am emotionally invested in the success of the company. It's a bit aggressive, sure, but it's seen as a leadership trait in some circles. It shows you're not a passive observer.
That is a very, very American perspective. Now, let's look at the UK definition. In Britain, pissed means drunk.
And we need to be specific here. It's not just a glass of wine with dinner drunk.
Oh, no. It implies heavy intoxication, slurring your words, stumbling, losing control. It's not a subtle term. You are wasted. You are smashed.
So the source material gives us this scenario that plays out like a horror movie in my head. Emma describes an American speaking to a British boss.
Set the scene. It's Tuesday morning, the boardroom. There's coffee and pastries, but the mood is tense.
Right. Big project meeting. Something went wrong the night before. You have a server crash or a missed deadline. The American employee wants to show the British boss that they're taking this seriously.
They want to show that passion we talked about.
Exactly. They want to show initiative, so they lean in, they try to make a personal connection, look the boss in the eye.
Right, they say,
I was so pissed last night.
it's catastrophic. You can just feel the air leave the room.
The silence must be deafening. Imagine the boss's face. Just this slow motion confusion turning into, what? Disappointment. Disgust.
Because the boss isn't hearing, I was angry about the work, the boss is hearing, I was incredibly drunk last night.
On a Monday night.
Exactly. On a work night. And because of the context, the project failed. The boss is now connecting the dots. The project failed, and you were drunk.
You have just confessed, completely unprompted, to being negligent and unprofessional.
You've shifted your character archetype entirely. You think you're being the dedicated go-getter, but you've just cast yourself as the office party animal with a possible drinking problem.
The worst part is, the American has no idea. They are probably sitting there thinking, yeah, I really showed him how much I care. Meanwhile, the boss is mentally contacting HR.
And trying to figure out if this is a cry for help.
As Emma says in the source, that could definitely get you fired if you aren't careful. It's not an exaggeration.
It speaks to a deeper cultural difference, too, regarding emotional display in the workplace. Even if pissed meant angry in the UK, would it be as acceptable to say it to a boss?
That's a really good question. I feel like British work culture is generally more reserved, the stiff upper lip and all that.
It is. Stoicism is still a value. Coming in and declaring you are pissed, even in the American sense, might be seen as a lack of emotional control, a bit unprofessional. But declaring you are drunk, that's the end of the line.
It's a total violation. So the rule is simple. If you are in London, just delete the word pissed from your vocabulary.
Unless you are literally holding a pint of beer in a pub with friends.
Even then, be careful. As you said, it's a strong word. Maybe stick to tipsy or merry if you want to be polite.
Yes, merry is safe. Merry is charming.
Merry. I like that. It sounds like Christmas. Okay, let's move to section 3. This is about slang that carries hidden emotional weight. We have 2 examples here, one American phrase that scares Brits and one British phrase that sounds brutal to Americans.
The axis of aggression and exhaustion.
Let's start with the aggression. The phrase is, hit me up.
A staple of American casual communication. It's everywhere.
Completely. Hit me up later. Hit me up when you get there. It just means contact me. Text, call, email, send a message on social media. It is a very casual, low-pressure invitation to connect.
But words have histories, and they have literal meanings, and sometimes those literal meanings can't be ignored.
Right, and to a British ear, especially one that hasn't spent a lot of time consuming American media, the verb hit takes center stage.
John points this out in the source. He says it sounds physically aggressive. To a British ear, hit me up sounds like a command to strike someone.
Like punch me.
Or start a fight with me. It creates a vibe of confrontation. The up doesn't soften it. It almost makes it sound worse, like beat me up.
It's interesting because American slang is full of violent metaphors for positive things. We crush a presentation. We kill a performance. We target an audience.
We slay.
We slay. Hit me up fits right into that high-energy, slightly aggressive linguistic bucket.
That's a great observation. American English is often very kinetic and forceful. British English, by comparison, often leans towards understatement and passivity. So when you throw a phrase like, hit me up, into a polite British conversation, it lands like a grenade.
It just changes the whole vibe from friendly to threatening instantly. But then we have the reverse. The British word that sounds incredibly harsh to American ears. Knackered.
I am absolutely knackered.
Now, I know what this means intellectually. It means tired, exhausted.
Dizzy.
But the sound of it, the phonetics of it are so violent to me.
Let's analyze that. It has that hard KN start. Even though the K is silent, the knack sound is sharp. And then the erd at the end, it sounds guttural. It sounds final.
It sounds like bones breaking or machinery grinding to a halt and then collapsing.
Well, the etymology is quite grim. It comes from the knacker's yard.
Oh, I don't think I know this. What's a knacker's yard?
The knacker's yard is the place where old, worn-out horses were taken to be processed, to be slaughtered and rendered down for their parts, like glue and leather.
Oh, wow. That's really dark.
It is. So when you say, I am knackered, you are literally saying, I am like an old horse that is ready to be turned into glue.
That is incredibly dark. And yet they say it so casually.
They do. And that is why John calls it a great word, very expressive. It conveys a level of bone-deep, soul-crushing exhaustion that a simple word like tired just doesn't touch.
Tired is, I need a nap. Knackered is, I need to be put out of my misery.
Exactly. It carries so much emotional weight, and that is what this section of the source material is really about. Slang isn't just about replacing one word for another, like cookie for biscuit.
Right.
It's about the flavor of the word. Knackered adds a flavor of total depletion and dark humor. Hit me up adds a flavor of casual, kinetic aggression.
And if you don't know the flavor, you spoil the dish. You can cause real confusion.
Beautifully put.
So we've mastered the greeting, which is just a TCP/IP ping. We've avoided the piss trap and saved our careers. We understand the violence of hit me up and the existential despair of knackered.
A good day's work.
But now we face the final boss.
Section 4. The final boss, level dialects and density.
The source material shifts gears here in a really important way. We move from individual words, from vocabulary to sound, to the music of the language. And this is where things get really, really difficult for the learner.
And for the native speaker, frankly, this is not just a problem for outsiders.
The source draws a fascinating contrast between the geography of the U.S. and the U.K. We all know the U.S. has accents. A New Yorker doesn't sound like a Texan. Someone from Boston sounds different from someone from Minnesota.
True, but think about the scale. You can drive from Ohio to Nebraska, that is a massive distance, hundreds and hundreds of miles, and the accent shifts are subtle. They exist, but they are gradients. It's a slow fade.
But in the U.K.?
The U.K. is linguistically dense. John notes that you can drive 30 minutes in England, just 30 minutes, and the accent changes completely, not just a little bit, but fundamentally.
Why is that? Why is it so packed together?
Well, it's history. It's time. You have to remember that for 1,000 years, people in Britain didn't move much. You were born in a village, you lived in that village, you died in that village. Dialects had centuries to stew in isolation, like little linguistic petri dishes.
That makes so much sense.
The U.S., by contrast, is a nation of movement, of expansion. We mixed our accents together as we moved west. Britain is a collection of ancient, isolated pockets of sound.
So you have these deep, deep roots. The source lists a few specific examples that are famously difficult. Geordie, Scouse, Cockney, Glaswegian.
And we aren't just talking about a slight twang or a different vowel here. We are talking about fundamentally different sounds, different vocabularies, different cadences.
Let's take Scouse, the Liverpool accent. To my ear, it sounds like a roller coaster. It's very melodic.
It is. It has a very specific melody, a rising and falling intonation at the end of sentences. But it also has very harsh guttural sounds. The K sound in Scouse is almost like clearing your throat. It's a very distinct sound.
And then you have Geordie from Newcastle.
Which is almost a different language. I'm not really exaggerating. It retains words from the Anglo-Saxon settlers that the rest of England lost centuries ago. It's like a time capsule. Someone from London might genuinely not understand a broad Geordie speaker.
And then there's the famous Cockney, or the modern estuary English that you hear around London.
Where the letter T goes to die.
Yes, water instead of water. The glottal stop.
It's the glottal stop. It's distinct. But here is the final boss element the source talks about. It's not just that they are different. It's that they are hard to decode even for other Brits.
This was the most validating part of the transcript for me. John, a British man, born and raised, admits that he sometimes has to ask people from Glasgow to slow down.
That is the native speaker test. If a native speaker needs subtitles for their own countrymen, you, the learner, are completely off the hook. You don't need to feel bad about being confused.
It really challenges the idea of the British accent. You know, in Hollywood, directors always say, give me a British accent.
Which usually means a posh, villainous RP accent spoken by someone like Alan Rickman.
Exactly. But in reality, there is no single British accent. It's a choir of hundreds of different voices, some of which can't understand each other. It's a mosaic.
And that leads to a very practical problem for anyone trying to learn English or just function in the UK for work or travel.
Which brings us to Section 5, strategies for the learner. How do we actually cope with this? How do you survive the final boss?
The source material is brutally honest here. The first thing you have to do is throw away your textbook.
Emma goes hard on this. She says textbooks teach received pronunciation, or general American.
RP received pronunciation is the Queen's English. It's the BBC News anchor voice from the 1950s. It is clear, clipped, precise, and almost nobody speaks it in real life anymore. It's a class signifier for a tiny, tiny fraction of the population.
It's like learning Latin to visit Italy. You'll understand the signs, but you won't understand the people.
That's a great way to put it. If you walk into a pub in Newcastle expecting everyone to sound like Hugh Grant, you are going to be completely hopelessly lost. Real life is messy, as Emma says.
So strategy number 1 is immersion. But not just any immersion. It has to be targeted.
Right. You can't just listen to the BBC World Service. The news is sanitized. It's designed to be understood internationally. You need to train your ear to the variety. The advice is to listen to podcasts from different regions.
So if you're moving to Manchester,
listen to a podcast about Manchester United. Listen to a local radio show from Manchester Online. Listen to a comedy show from Scotland if you're going to Glasgow.
You have to expose your brain to the data so it can start recognizing the patterns. It's like training an AI.
Exactly. It's about calibration. You have to tune your ear to the right frequency.
Strategy number 2 is one that I struggle with. The subtitle trap.
Ah, yes. The safety net. We all love subtitles.
But Emma warns, don't trust subtitles implicitly.
This is a subtle but really important point. Subtitles are often written for an international audience. They prioritize clear meaning over cultural flavor.
Can you give an example?
Well, imagine a character in a British show, maybe from London, uses a very specific piece of local slang. Maybe they greet someone with "watcha," which is an old Cockney greeting. The subtitle might just say hello.
You get the plot, but you lose the culture.
You lose the why. You miss the fact that the character is signaling they're working class or from a specific part of London, or that they have a certain kind of informal relationship with the person they're talking to. You get a sanitized, flattened version of the interaction.
It just strips out all the nuance.
It does. So the strategy is to try watching without them, or at least be aware that what you are reading is a translation, even if it's technically in English.
Now, strategy number 3 is the big one. This is the controversial one, maybe. Code switching.
Code switching is simply adapting your language to fit your environment. And we all do it all the time. You speak differently to your grandmother than you do to your friends.
Of course.
But the source material has a flashing red warning light here. A golden rule.
Do not fake the accent.
Please don't try to fake a British accent. It usually sounds terrible. That is a direct quote from John.
And it is universally true. There's something deeply cringeworthy about An American putting on a fake British accent in a serious setting. It's just painful to witness.
It is. Why do you think that is? Is it just that we're bad at it?
I think that's part of it, but it also feels like mockery. It feels like a caricature. It suggests you aren't taking them seriously, or that you treat their identity as a costume you can just put on.
That's a very good point. It's condescending.
So how do we code switch without the funny voice?
You change the software, not the hardware. You change the vocabulary, not the pronunciation.
Give me the tactical examples, the day-to-day stuff.
If you are in London, you make a conscious choice to say lift instead of elevator. You ask for the bill at a restaurant instead of the check. You look for the bin instead of the trash can. You stand in a queue, not a line.
But you say them in your own American accent.
Yes, perfectly normal American accent. Excuse me, where is the lift? Not, hello, governor, where's the lift?
Right, definitely not that.
It's about efficiency and respect. John calls it building bridges. When you use their words, you are signaling, I am a guest in your house and I am playing by your rules. It shows effort.
There is also a practical aspect. I've had this happen, asking for the check in a UK restaurant.
What happened?
The waiter looked confused. He thought I wanted to check something like check my coat or check on the food. The word didn't land. Bill is unambiguous. You say bill, you get the bill.
Exactly. It just greases the wheels of daily life. But this brings up an interesting psychological phenomenon that I think the source hints at, the uncanny valley of fluency.
Go on.
When you code switch perfectly, when you use all the right words, lift, pavement, bill, jumper, trousers, you sometimes create a new problem for yourself.
How?
You sound so natural that the British person you're talking to forgets you aren't British.
And then they stop filtering.
Exactly. They speed up, they use deeper slang, they reference cultural touchstones you won't get, they stop making allowances for you being a foreigner. You essentially talk your way into a level of difficulty you aren't ready for.
That is such a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
You fit in so well that you can no longer understand what's happening.
It's the paradox of proficiency. But it's still better than being the loud American demanding the check and complaining about the elevator.
Agreed. Now, even if you follow all these rules, you ping the server, you avoid pissed, you say lift, you are going to mess up.
You are. It is inevitable. It's a guarantee.
Which brings us to section 6, embracing the mistakes. And we have to end with the single greatest, most catastrophic vocabulary mistake an American can make in the UK.
The fanny pack incident.
We have to talk about it.
We must. It is a rite of passage for American travelers.
So in the US, a fanny pack is a harmless, if slightly unfashionable, utilitarian object. It is a pouch on a belt. It's for tourists, hikers, dads at Disney World.
And the word fanny in America is a childish, innocuous term for your rear end, your buttocks. Sit on your fanny. It's something a kindergarten teacher would say. It's almost cute.
But in the UK?
In the UK, fanny does not mean buttocks. It refers specifically and vulgarly to female genitalia.
And not in a medical, anatomical way.
No, it is coarse slang. It is rude.
So imagine the scene. You are a wholesome American tourist in London. You are standing in a crowded shop or maybe a security line at the airport, and you loudly ask, has anyone seen my fanny pack?
Or even worse, I keep my valuables in my fanny pack.
Oh no, it's a social atom bomb.
The reaction is instantaneous. Anyone under the age of 60 will start laughing. Older people might look genuinely shocked and offended. You have effectively just announced that you have a bag for your car. Well, you get it.
It's the ultimate social banana peel. You think you are being practical. They think you are being shockingly obscene.
It creates a massive status drop. In that moment, you go from respected visitor to clueless, vulgar tourist.
So what is the British term, just to save our listeners from this fate?
Bum bag.
Bum bag, which sounds funny to Americans because bum can mean a homeless person.
True, but in the UK, bum is the common, fairly polite word for rear end, so bum bag is the safe, polite term. Or you could say waist bag if you want to be totally neutral and formal.
But this all leads to the wonderful philosophy that Emma and John end on, the philosophy of failure.
I love this part of the source material. They argue that you shouldn't live in fear of these mistakes.
Don't be afraid to make mistakes. People will correct you, you will survive.
And most importantly, you will have a funny story to tell.
That is such a healthy mindset. The embarrassment is temporary, but the story is forever. The awkwardness is the price of admission to a new culture.
Language is described in the source as a living thing. It isn't a static code in a book. It's messy, it evolves, it trips you up. The differences, fanny packs versus bum bags, sidewalk versus pavement, are what make it fun. They are what make it rich.
It's not a bug, it's a feature. The source material ends with this lovely image. Whether you are drinking coffee on the sidewalk, American style, or tea on the pavement, British style, you are part of this massive, shared, chaotic experiment of the English language.
And notice the pairing there. Sidewalk, pavement. Even in the goodbye, the distinction remains, reminding you to stay alert.
So let's wrap this up. We have covered a lot of ground today.
We have. We've decoded the greetings, dodged the firing squad of pissed, navigated the hidden violence of hit me up, and survived the final boss of dialects.
And we learned that the goal isn't to be a spy. You don't need to fool them into thinking you're British. That's not the point.
No, the goal is connection. It's about removing the static from the line so you can actually hear the person on the other end. It's about showing respect.
Before we go, I want to leave the listener with a final thought. We talked about code switching, changing your words to fit in, saying bill instead of check.
Right. The software change.
It makes me wonder,
Yeah.
if we change our vocabulary to fit in, does our personality change slightly too?
That is a profound question. The old Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, right? The idea that the language you speak affects how you think.
Are you a slightly different person when you ask for the bill? Does the word itself carry a different energy? A bit more polite, maybe? A bit more formal? Or does the American check carry an energy of speed and efficiency that we lose?
When you stand in a queue instead of a line, do you become a little more patient, a little more orderly? Does the mask eventually become the face?
Something to mull over the next time you're crossing the Atlantic. Just remember, don't mention the fanny pack, and for God's sake, don't tell your boss you're pissed.
Words to live by.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
See you next time.